What's up YouTube? Welcome to .NET Mob. This is a video on Dapper C# tutorial. In this video we are going to implement CRUD operations using Dapper ORM in ASP.NET MVC application. Before starting this video, I would like to ask you a favor. If you found this video helpful, please thumbs up this video, and for more awesome videos like this, please be subscribed to this channel .NET Mob. As you know, Dapper is a micro ORM specially made for the better performance during the DB interaction, and it is developed by Stack Overflow team. Without further ado, let's get started. This is my Visual Studio 2013. First of all, we have to create ASP.NET MVC application. For that, click on New Project here or go to File, then New, then Project, or you can use the shortcut Ctrl+Shift+N. Click on that. Select Web under Visual C#, then select ASP.NET Web Application. Then name your project here. I will name it as Dapper MVC CRUD. Then select the location where you want to save this application. Then click on OK. Select MVC template. Keep other options as it is. Click on OK. So here we have a brand new ASP.NET MVC application. Open the Solution Explorer. First of all, I am going to delete unwanted controllers and related views and model classes. Selecting an account and home controller, right click, then delete. Click on OK. Then model class, account and identity model, right click, then delete. Click on OK. Then views. Selecting account and home folder, right click, then delete. Click on OK. Now we have to add Dapper ORM into this application. For that, right click on project, then click on manage NuGet packages, then search for Dapper here. So here we have Dapper ORM, a high performance micro ORM. Click on install. So here we have installed Dapper into this application. So you can see the Dapper reference here. Before continuing with this project, we have to create database for this application. Let me switch to my management studio here. First of all, we have to create a database. Right click on databases, then new database. I will name this database as Dapper DB. Click on OK. Inside the DB, we have to create a table. So right click on tables, then new table. First column, employee ID as integer. Then we have name as worker 50. Then we have position as worker 50. Then we have age as integer. Finally, we have salary as integer. Now I want to set this employee ID as the primary key, and I want to set the same employee ID column as the identity specification. For that, go to column properties, then expand this identity specification here, then set isIdentity as yes. So we don't want to insert values into employee ID. SQL Server will take care of that. It will start from 1 and incremented by 1 upon new record insertion. In order to save this table, use the shortcut Ctrl+S, or you can click on this save icon here. Then I will name this table as employee. So here we have the newly created table employee. So we are going to do CRUD operations on this table using stored procedures. So we have to create few stored procedures for this table that we can create later. Now back to the Visual Studio. Now we need to add model class for this employee table. For that, right click on models, then add class. I will name this class as employee model. Click on add. Now we have to add properties for each of these columns inside employee table. So I'm going to start with employee ID here. Employee ID, then name Then we have position, it's of the type string. Then we have age, it is of the type integer. Finally we have salary. So here we have the employee model class. We will be using this model class for DB operations. Now we are going to create a special class in order to interact with database using stored procedure. For that, right click on models, then add class. I will name this class as Dapper ORM. Click on add. This is a static class. Static. Inside that, I'm going to create a string variable in order to store connection string, private static string connection string. For now, I will copy paste the connection string for this database Dapper DB here. Now we are going to create 3 static functions in order to interact with database in 3 situations. First one, public static void. So this function does not return anything. I will name this function as execute without return. We have 2 parameters for this function, string procedure name, second one dynamic parameters. For that we have to import this namespace Dapper param. So this will be the stored procedure name. So inside this dynamic parameter object we will pass the parameters and corresponding name. Now we have to import the namespace for SQL client using system.data.sql client. Let me increase the editor zoom level so that you can see what I am typing here. I am going to declare a using statement here, using inside that SQL connection object, SQL connection as SQL con is equal to new SQL connection. Inside that we have to pass the connection string. First of all, I will open this connection here, SQL con.open. Now in order to execute this stored procedure, we have to call the function execute. SQL con.execute. First parameter will be the procedure name itself, procedure name. Then we will pass the parameters. After all, we have to set the command type as command type. For that we have to import this namespace system.data.storedProcedure. So this function will be called when there is no data to be returned from the database. Now we have to create the next function. For that, let me copy this function from here and paste it here. With this function we have to execute the stored procedure, and after all we want to return a scalar variable. So I will name this function as execute scalar. So I'm going to make this function as a general function. So I want to add the t variable here, and we will return the t data type here. If you hover on this execute scalar function, you can see that this function will return object. We want to convert this object into this type. So I will call the function convert change type. Convert change type, and we have to pass the type here, type of t, and we want to cast that into t, and we will return this here, return. So basically this function is used to execute a stored procedure, and we want to return a scalar variable. If you have a stored procedure that will return an integer variable, then we can call this function Dapper ORM dot execute scalar. Then we will pass the type here. integer. Then we will pass the stored procedure name here. Then we will pass the param object here. That's it. So this function will execute the stored procedure and it will return the integer data type. Now we have to write one more function for that. Let me copy this function from here and paste in here. With this function, we will return data from a stored procedure as a list. So I will name this function as return list. So I will make this function as a general function. For that, I will add the t type here, and we want to return IEnumerable collection is of the type t. In order to execute this function, we will call the function query here. If you hover on this function, you can see that it returns IEnumerable collection. We want to convert that into t type, so we will pass the t here. Finally, return the collection here. Suppose if you have a stored procedure to retrieve all of the employees from the table, so we can call this function like this: Dapper ORM dot return list. Then we will pass the employee model class here, employee model. So this function will return IEnumerable collection of the type employee here. Now let's look how we can call this function in practical. First of all, we have to create 4 stored procedures. For that, select the database, then click on new query here. Then we can start like this: create pros. First stored procedure name will be employee, add or edit. So with this stored procedure, we will do 2 operations: insert and update. First of all, we have employee ID. Employee ID, it's of the type integer. Then we have name as varchar 50. Now we have position. It's of the type varchar 50. Then we have age as integer. Finally, we have salary as integer. So stored procedure will be like this. First of all, we will do the insert operation. If employee ID is equal to 0, then we will do the insert operation. Insert into employee. Now we have to list the column names here. Name. We don't want to insert values into employee ID since it is a identity specified column. Then we have position, then age and salary. Values. Let me copy this from here and paste in here and adding the @ symbol here. If employee ID is not equal to 0, then we will go for update operation. So we can do that here. Update employee set. Let me copy this from here and paste in here. Name is equal to @name. Then position is equal to @position. Then we have age @age. Finally, we have salary. Salary is equal to @salary. Employee ID. Employee ID is equal to the given ID. So with this stored procedure, we are going to do 2 operations: insert and update. Some of you may create different stored procedures for insert and update. If you can combine them like this, you can reduce codes in stored procedure as well as C#. In order to execute the stored procedure, click on this execute button here. So here we have created the stored procedure employee add or edit. Now we have to create 3 more stored procedures. Next stored procedure will be employee view all. We don't have any parameter for the stored procedure, and query will be like this: select star from employee. Click on this execute button here. Next we have store procedure for employee view by ID. We have a parameter for the store procedure employee ID. It's of the type integer. Then query will be like this: select star from employee where employee ID is equal to given ID. Let me copy this and paste in here. In order to execute this, click on execute button here. One more store procedure for delete employee delete by ID. We have a parameter for the store procedure add employee ID as integer. Then query will be like this: delete from employee where employee ID is equal to given ID. Click on execute. So here we have created 4 store procedure for the CRUD operation. Created store procedures can be seen under programmability, then store procedure. So in total we have created 4 store procedure: employee add or edit, employee delete by ID, employee view all, employee view by ID. Now back to Visual Studio. Now we can create employee controller. For that, right click on controllers, then click on add, then controller. I will select MVC5 controller empty, click on add. I will name this controller as employee controller, click on add. Now I want to set this employee controller as the default controller. So let me copy this employee from here and we can replace it here inside root config file. Replace home with employee. Now back to the employee controller. Here we have the default index action. With this index action, we will list all of the employees inside the employee tab. So we want to create the view for this index action. So right click here, then click on add view. Keep the view name as it is index, then select list template. So we are going to list employees from the employee tab. Then we want to select the model class as employee model here, employee model, and we want to use the default layout page. Click on add. So here we have the index view. It is created using scaffolding mechanism. At the top of the view here you can see the model declaration. We have to pass IEnumerable collection of employee model class from this index view. So I will call this function return list inside the class Dapper ORM. So let me copy this class name from here, Dapper ORM. For that we have to import the namespace Dapper MVC models dot return list, and we will pass the employee class here, employee model. Then we have to pass the store procedure name from here, and it will be employee view all, employee view all. As a second parameter we have to pass parameters. For this store procedure we don't have any parameter, so I will pass null, or we can set default param value as null is equal to null, and we can remove this null from here. We can do this default null value for all of the functions here. So here we have passed IEnumerable collection of employee into the index view. Now let me run this application. For that, hold Control then press F5. So here we have the index view. Here you can see the navigation. It is from the default layout page. I'm not going to change layout page. In this index view we want to make few modifications that we can do after insert operation. Next we are going to do insert operation. So let's implement the insert operation. For that I'm going to add 2 action methods here: public action result add or edit. Inside that, we will return a view, return view. Like this, we have to create one more action. Let me copy paste here. This one is HTTP GET request, and we have a parameter here int id is equal to 0, and we have a parameter for this HTTP post action method also. HTTP post parameter will be employee model itself as emp. So with this get, add or edit action method, we will return view for insert or update operation. For now, I will do the insert operation. We can discuss the update operation later. For insert operation, URL will be like this: /employee /add or edit. For update operation, URL will be like this: /employee /add or edit, then ID of the employee. So we can discuss this after insert operation. So let's discuss insert operation here. First of all, we have to create a view for this add or edit action method. For that, right click here, then add view. Keep the view name as it is, add or edit. Then I will select edit template from here, and I will select model class as employee model. Click on add. So here we have the add or edit view. Build the solution. Now we are going to call this add or edit action method inside the index view. Here you can see a link for creating new. Inside index view, you can see the code for that anchor tag here. So this will be the text, create new. After that, we have to pass the action method, then the controller name. So in this case, action method name will be add or edit, then controller will be employee itself, so we don't want to pass the controller name here. Now build this solution. Now click on this create new. So here you can see the form for creating new employees. I want to change this add or edit view. First of all, I'm going to remove this add or edit label from here, and we want to delete this employee model as well. So I will delete this one. Then instead of this employee ID text box, I want to keep it as hidden field. So I'm going to remove this employee ID controls from here. Instead of that, I'm going to add HTML hidden field here. Hidden field for model, such that model dot employee ID. Okay, we will keep others as it is, saving and reloading this page. It looks fine now. After filling this form, user will click on this submit button, save. So it will post data into this action method add or edit of the type HTTP post. So values from this form will be inside this variable emp. You want to save this employee details into the employee table. So for that, we are going to use this employee add or edit stored procedure. So we can do that here. First of all, we have to create an object of dynamic parameter. Dynamic parameters. For that, we have to import this namespace Dapper as param is equal to new dynamic parameters. Now we can pass parameters values into this object param dot add. First of all, we will pass the parameter name. For add or edit stored procedure, in total we have 5 parameters. First of all, we will pass the value for this employee ID here, employee ID, and we will pass the value from emp.employee ID. Like this, we have to pass values for remaining 4 parameters. So I will copy this line and pasting below that 4 times and changing the name here. Now we can pass values for remaining parameters from respective properties, name, then position, then age, then salary. So here we have added parameters and values into this dynamic parameter object pair. Now we can execute the stored procedure employee add or edit. For that we can do this Dapper ORM dot execute without return. First of all, we will pass the stored procedure name here, employee add or edit. Second parameter will be this param itself. So this will insert new employee into employee table. Finally, we want to return into index action in order to see all of the employees. So we can do this return redirect to action index. Build this solution and reload this page. Now I am going to fill this form James Smith, software engineer, then age will be 25, then salary, click on save. So here we have added new employee for, so here we have added new record for James Smith. Let me check the database table. Right click on the table employee, then select top 1000 rows. So here you can see the record for James Smith. Now I want to edit this index view. For that, go to index view. I want to change this index title as employee list, and let me get rid of this employee ID column. For that, we can avoid the first column from here, th and corresponding td element. Let me save this and reload this page. Next, we are going to do edit operation. Let me check the last column of this table. We don't need this details hyperlink. Let me remove that, and we have edit hyperlink. Here we have the edit hyperlink. Text will be edit, then action name will be add or edit. Now we need to pass this ID, so we can uncomment this. ID is equal to item dot employee ID. Here you can see that we are going to iterate through the employee collection. So we can pass this item dot employee ID. Let me save this and reload this page. So if you inspect this edit, so here you can see the URL as /employee/add or edit 1. So it will read this action method add or edit of the type HTTP GET, and we will get the ID inside this variable. So when user click on this edit button, we want to return this form by filling details of the employee James Smith. So we want to edit this action method. If ID is equal to 0, then we will pass as it is. Else we want to return the view by passing the employee object for this ID. So we can do that here. Dapper ORM dot return list employee model, and we will pass the stored procedure name here. It will be employee view by ID, employee view by ID. Then we have to pass the dynamic parameter object. Let me put this else part in curly braces. Now I'm going to declare dynamic parameter object here, dynamic parameters as param is equal to new parameters, and we want to add a parameter, param dot add. For this stored procedure we have parameter employee ID, copying, and we can use that here. We will pass the ID here. So now we can pass this param into this method. So this will return IEnumerable collection. We want to return the first element, so we will call the function first or default, and we will convert that into employee model. build this solution, click on edit. So here we have the form filled with details of James Smith. Now we can edit these details. After that we can click on the submit button, save. Now I am going to update this James Smith into James Jones. If I click on the save button, will it update in the Dapper? Yes, it will update. Let me check that. Click on save here. So here you can see that James Smith is updated to James Jones. It will work because inside the add or edit view, here we have a hidden field for employee ID. For insert operation, this hidden field value will be 0. For update operation, this hidden field value will be equal to selected employee ID. Inside the action add or edit, we will pass the values here. Inside the add or edit store procedure, we will check whether ID is equal to 0 or not. If it is equal to 0, then we will do insert operation. If it is not equal to 0, then we will do the upgrade operation for the given ID. So that is what happened here. Next we are going to do delete operation. Let me check this delete hyperlink inside the index view. So here we have the action link. Action text will be delete, then delete action method, and we want to pass the ID of employee here. Employee ID. Let me create the action method delete inside employee controller here. So action method will be like this: public action result, action name will be delete, and we have a parameter int id. So this id is passed as employee id from the index view here. First of all, I am going to create an object of dynamic parameter like this, and we want to call the store procedure Dapper ORM dot execute without return. Store procedure name will be like this: employee delete by id, and we have two parameters like this, and we have to pass the parameters like this param. So this will delete the employee with the given id. And finally we will redirect to index action. Let me copy this and paste it here. Build this solution. Let me add one more employee into this table. For that, click on this create new button here. Click on save. So here we have added record for fee on agree. In order to style alternative rows inside this table, I am going to add one more class here, table, then table stripped. Saving and reloading this page. So that's it. Now we want to delete this record for fee on agree. For that, click on delete. So it is deleted record for Fiona. So in this tutorial, we have discussed how to implement CRUD operation using Dapper ORM and SQL Server Store Procedure. If you found this video helpful, please thumbs up this video, and for more awesome videos like this, please be subscribed to this channel and .NET More. You can download this project source code from the link given below in video description. Please like and share this video with your friends and colleagues. Let me know your comments and feedbacks in the comment box below. Have a nice day. Bye.